Hey guys, welcome back to World of Warships. Today we're taking a look at the Vermont, the almighty brick, one of my favorite battleships in the entire game. I think for obvious reasons, this ship absolutely smashes enemy ships. It's one of the most consistent battleships in the game when you catch someone broadside. Yes, it's slow. Yes, the reload is painfully long, but the salvos you get out of this ship are really second to none. Maybe Maine is close, but that's a tier higher. At tier 10 here, Vermont is incredible. 457s, you get 12 of them. You get amazing accuracy. You get the American accuracy upgrade. And I've been playing it with the legendary mod on this ship, which is not all that common. It's not exactly synergistic with the playstyle of this ship, but a little bit extra reload can help you out, and there are some situations that I want to highlight that. But for the most part, Brick is all about waiting for that perfect opportunity. Like that. Yes, it's gonna be a good video, isn't it? Dev Strike, First Blood, you'll love to see it. Talon here as well, that could be a juicy target. Hopefully he doesn't get behind the island by the time we reload. The reload upgrade here, especially because it's not in the 6 upgrade slot, gives us that 10% reload at the cost of concealment. It's in your 5th upgrade slot. So instead of taking concealment upgrade, you're taking a bit of reload here. But considering we want to be surprising people, that's not always an advantage. And you're going to notice a lot of the time, I'm holding my salvo so long that it really doesn't matter. In fact, I'd be better off with the concealment upgrade. This is a good example of a legendary upgrade, in my opinion. A unique upgrade where it offers a different playstyle, but it's not outright better. It's not objectively the better way to play the ship. This is how I would prefer we look at these legendary mods and how I wish Wargaming would go forward with them. There's a few, and we looked at Colombo recently, where it's just an outright buff. Nearly another Dev Strike already. Less than 20 hits and over 100k damage. Yes, Vermont is a ton of fun, I gotta say. This ship can be frustrating when your salvos aren't landing, but waiting for those perfect opportunities is absolutely amazing. The ship also with 457s gets that 30 millimeters of overmatch, which means even if cruisers are angling at tier 10, you can just overmatch right through them. Not all of them, but the vast majority you can. We finish off the Iparanga to clear the flank, and now we have a Prince to deal with. Fortunately, Vermont has incredible built-in acceleration. Yes, it's slow, but it has that built-in acceleration, which allows it to be rather maneuverable. Much more maneuverable than you would think looking at the base statistics. Libertad, of course, takes that to the next level, being a ship that can also go upwards of 30 knots or so. Vermont is limited on its top speed, but consistently stays near its top speed thanks to that improved acceleration. There's that overmatch coming into play. Yes, I obviously am looking for the broadside salvos, but the overmatch can help you in situations where people are angling to you. Although in this case, we do want to be dealing with the Schlieffen. We got a lot of HP here, and this one is quickly turning into a blowout. I'm going to greed for this salvo. Notice here, we are getting our reload a little bit quicker in this one. Although Schlieffen, I think, gets to turn in time. But we're going to take a pretty massive hit. I think that's coming from the Slava, actually, as well as a bit from the Schlieffen. So Vermont does have a vulnerable broadside. It's a large exposed ship. The Citadel is waterline, I believe, so it's going to be a little bit RNG whether or not you hit it. But even into an angled Schlieffen, like 30k, just insane damage output from this ship. And in this next game, I'm also going to be holding for too long, perhaps. But here's why we hold our salvos, okay? Hindenburg spotted at the start of the game. Our reload is too slow, even with the legendary upgrade, to fire and then reload in time to catch him if he turns. This isn't like a Republic, for example. That's the strength of that ship. I could be shooting at this Hindenburg in a Republic and still be reloaded if he tries to turn away. Vermont cannot do that, so we're waiting. We're holding. Hold. Wait for it. Wait for it. Is he going to turn? No, he's not going to turn, so we wait. As long as he stays spotted, which he will, thanks to our Shima, We just wait. Patience is key in a Vermont here. And yes, we may be lacking the DPM. We're not taking advantage of that legendary upgrade, but that's okay. He makes his turn. He finally decides to go for it. And we got a salvo ready and waiting for him. Yeah. Pretty predictable, I suppose, but you love to see it regardless. That is the Vermont for you. An excellent ship to go for. The grind can be a little bit painful. Kansas as well as Minnesota can be a little bit rough. They don't have the guns that Vermont has. It's a pretty massive upgrade once you get to the tier 10. Although they did buff them a while ago. They're much better than they were on release, I suppose. But still, you're playing this line to get the tier 10. I really don't see why you'd want to be playing some of those tier 8 and tier 9s. I held for a very long time again for this Kremlin. Get the 2 citadels, not quite able to finish him off, but again, we have less than 10 hits here and 80k damage. It's so fun, man. It really is. But again, this legendary upgrade is not helping me in these circumstances here. We'll try and turn towards the D cap here. Torpedoes on the way. We don't have the spotting, unfortunately, at least in the C cap or the D cap here. But hopefully we can avoid these torps. Malta here is getting the hydro for us, so we know where those torps are. Big thank you for eating the torps for me and spotting them out for us. Actually, Des Moines has a radar. There we go. Hoffman. Yeah, shooting DDs as a Vermont is very, very nice as well. Even with the armor piercing, they do so much damage. That is over 15,000 damage. Don't even need the full pens there to do insane alpha damage to that poor destroyer. Definitely check out Malta if you haven't already. Awesome content creator for this game. Makes YouTube videos, streams as well. Really, really good person to check out if you want more content on this game. Here we got a Moskva and a Shikishima here to deal with. But Moskva, of course, older cruiser in this game, so has a gigantic citadel. Greedily gonna go for that as well. We're a little bit low, but Vermont has those fast cooldown heals. Unfortunately, Moskva has prop mods, so he dodges our salvo. These fast cooldown heals are going to allow us to tank for quite a long time. Not only does this improved acceleration help us to survive, but getting back to your heals in half the time that a typical battleship would is so powerful. It's like the Massachusetts, Georgia, Ohio heal, 40-second cooldown base. It's so convenient, man. It's such a nice upgrade to this ship. And we're going to play a little bit safer now, of course, but we can get back into this fight. Notice the Libertad is full sending, so we can think about turning back in here. We know Moskva has that propulsion mod, so we have to do a little bit of guesswork on what he's going to do. It's not just point and click, but in this case, we do manage to guess that he would slow down and then speed up again, getting us 30,000 damage. Such impactful salvos. If you're really not liking playing battleships because you feel like the salvo damage itself isn't all that engaging, I suppose, Vermont is a good one to go for. Yes, it's painful to wait, but if you're wanting those big salvos, there's really not much else like the Vermont. Moskva, again, looks like he's slowing down. But notice that shell travel time as well. It's like 11 seconds to get towards the Moskva at 18.5 kilometers. So he's just going to out-accelerate us as well. He's doing a great job of dodging, making me guess and incorrectly aim for him. So he's surviving. Malta gets surprised by a Colombo. Perhaps one of the scariest things to surprise you these days. Surprise Colombo at like 5 kilometers. It's a scary ship to deal with for us, so we're going to have to kite in this case. But given that Colombo at these closer ranges has a superstructure that we can hit, and Vermont is quite accurate, we're going to stick to the AP and just look at the salvos I'm going to get here. You don't need to swap to HE necessarily to get massive salvos on angled ships, even if you don't overmatch them. That's a 20k hit to his superstructure, and in this case, the legendary upgrade is helping us out a ton, allowing us to reload quicker, higher DPM, forcing this Colombo to take much, much more damage. That's one of the weaknesses of Vermont, is if you get caught out like this, you have one salvo, and then you got to wait that 40 seconds. So in this case, we are able to get another salvo quicker than most people would expect without sacrificing that accuracy upgrade. 11% accuracy is so good on the American battleships that I really never want to give it up. Another 20k plus salvo. And look at how quickly we get to angle again, man. It's so maneuverable as well. It's surprising, actually, given the size of the Vermont, just how maneuverable we actually are. Able to angle in time and then swing back to get another salvo. Colombo is healing again. We have another heal ourselves, up over 2.5 million potential damage in this game. Over 20k HP left on the Colombo. And insane dispersion. Look at that. That's just disgusting. Another 20k hit. So 3 salvos into angled Colombo, each one doing over 20,000 damage. That is crazy out of Vermont. We want to be at closer ranges to do that, of course. At longer ranges, the accuracy could be a little bit less consistent, of course. And the lead times here. Moskva again at very long range. It's hard to lead targets at these ranges. You got to do a lot of guesswork. It's not about where the ship is going to be. It's where you think they're going to dodge. That is the thought process, I suppose. And it's very difficult to predict. And at these longer ranges, yes, I am using range mod, as you can see. So really extreme ranges here. It's less about the ability to shoot at those ranges and more about the very small accuracy buff you can get by increasing your range. There was some data mining done quite a long time ago now, but just the way dispersion is calculated, range is a factor. So the more you increase your range, the slightly better your dispersion will be at all ranges. So that's why we're taking range mod here. It's not much, guys. It's really not much. So if you're finding the turret traverse to be quite sluggish, which it is, definitely go turret traverse upgrade on this ship, because it's going to be a more tangible advantage than just this little bit of range. But I got to take everything. If I'm going to play the ship and complain about accuracy a little bit here and there, as I'm known to do, I got to take the full maximum upgrades I possibly can, right? I guess that's fair. 30k without a Citadel into the Jacksonville. It's just so powerful. I will say I'm a little bit greedy. You might notice the fires last quite a while on our ship. And that's because I'm using heavy AP as well. Very, very greedy build, but I want those big salvos, man. I'm addicted to them. Enemy team pushing pretty hard here on the 8, 9, 10 lines. So central battleship positioning, very, very good here. Always wanting those crossfires. Yes, we do have the overmatch, but always wanting to get crossfires over shooting at angled targets, of course. Stalingrad pretty far out, still 14,500 with only a few hits there. No citadels required for pretty massive damage output. I'm a little bit concerned. How am I spotted here? Ah, a Yamagiri, not capping B, just full sending it at our spawn here. It's a little bit scary. Yes, we do have some decent maneuverability, and we have a solid torpedo belt. But I don't want to be taking a face full of Yamagiri torps, let's be honest. That is not good for our health, so we're going to be running away a little bit. There he is. Our friendly Yamagiri finds him. A Citadel, there we go. Onto the enemy ships over on that 8, 9, 10 line. It is a far shot to hit, but with the right predictions, or if they just don't move, then you can do some massive damage at range. These shells don't lose a lot of pen at those longer ranges, so you can still punch through a lot of armor. Looks like Yamagiri, I don't know, AFK'd, disconnected or something. So fortunately for us, we won't have to worry about that quite so much. A-gear here going to be angling, I think, but even if someone angles to you, you still have that overmatch power. And in this case, getting us 7,000 damage. Not much, but we'll take it. It's a little bit of damage and really useful on a ship that has quite a long reload. Now Malta pushing in an incomparable. We gotta go help him out, I suppose. Probably a good idea to help your div mates out. And angled Stalingrad is really the threat here. I suppose Fletcher Torps as well, but in this case, the Stalingrad is going to be the threat. So we're gonna go after him, but we're gonna notice how the damage can drop off when we aren't hitting exactly his superstructure, maybe the upper belt, upper bow, that kind of thing. So Very tricky. Sometimes it is just better to wait, but in this case, this Stalingrad is just going to stay angled to us. So we're going to try and help Malta finish him off, but it's difficult to get damage in these cases. That's where your positioning matters a ton. I'm not using Brisk here. Again, I'm very greedy for the build to get the most shell damage salvo weight as possible. But another advantage of not using that legendary upgrade is using Brisk. You get better concealment, so Brisk is active more often. Worse reload means you're not having that gun detection, that gun bloom as often, so Brisk is active more often, allowing you to reposition much quicker and get to the flanks much quicker. So legendary upgrade is interesting, but not all that worthwhile on Vermont if you don't want the full DPM build, the full damage farming build, I suppose. And there's an argument to be made that it's better for dealing damage to not take the legendary upgrade. Getting salvos out of concealment, surprising people, is going to be more impactful than when people know exactly where you are to angle to you. Finally, at these closer ranges, we can get the big hits in on his superstructure again. And even though that last salvo was pretty good into an angled Stalingrad, really good salvos into an angled Colombo earlier, I just want to highlight how much better this ship performs when you're catching those broadsides. So using that concealment, using Brisk even to get a little more speed to catch people off guard. A lot of playing Vermont is not about aiming, it's all about positioning this ship correctly, finding places where people will be giving you broadside. Maybe it seems like everybody's going broadside to me in these games, and maybe it's a paid actors moment, but also that's a lot down to positioning your ship. It's not quite as obvious, but when you're good at positioning your ship, it's going to look like more people are just giving broadside for no reason. That's a large portion of battleship play. It's a large portion of play in this game in general. A lot of your salvos come down to RNG, let's be honest. Even in other classes, cruisers, of course, destroyers, dealing with RNG on fires, a lot of your damage output, your battle impact, the thing you can control the most is your positioning, putting your ship in the best possible situation, and then RNG will come around eventually, hopefully, right, to give you that battle impact, whether it be from fires, burning down battleships, or good enough dispersion to dev strike people when you're playing a battleship, those kinds of things. So really focus on your positioning much more than, say, the aiming in particular. It is important, obviously, but getting yourself into better positions will net you more damage than really nitpicking your aiming, I suppose. In this case as well, the overmatch helping on something like the A gear. There's a lot of 30 mil cruisers, man, that really suffer into a Vermont. It is very difficult. You got to be trying to avoid the Vermont salvos. Fortunately, they're not that fast, like shell velocity wise, so you can dodge them, but when there's enough people shooting at you, or a Vermont is concealed, it is very, very difficult to deal with a ship like this. You can also single fire to try and aim in different ways to predict an enemy ship. In this case, we do manage to catch the Jacksonville. Cut out a few salvos because I was missing him quite a lot. He was doing a great job of dodging earlier in this game. So Vermont is just, I gotta keep coming back to this ship, man. It's so unique, and for that reason, you probably should think about getting this ship. If you're interested in battleships at all, this is definitely one to go get. Like I said already, maybe not for beginners necessarily. The grind can be a bit painful. The standard American battleship line going for Montana is probably better for beginners to learn on. It's maybe a little bit less punishing on the salvos weight, right? It's 406s only. But you get a faster reload, and the ship also moves faster. You don't have to deal with the issue of getting run down like you will in this ship potentially, right? It's not that fast. So having the extra speed on a Montana line as well as the faster reload is nice to learn how to play battleships. But once you've got one, maybe two battleship lines, or you're feeling confident, Vermont is a ton of fun to go for. I gotta say, this ship is so much fun, and I keep coming back to it. Even though I've played the game a long time, still one of my favorite ships in the entire game. So legendary upgrade. Yeah, it's different. It is different. There are situations where it's very nice. I didn't talk about it yet, but it does help you against carriers and subs as well, helping you with your airstrike reload, your ASW reload, as well as 15% continuous AA damage. Your defensive fire plus a full AA build can sometimes shoot down planes. Not that I would necessarily run that, but hey, it can be useful. Never ever give up an artillery plotting room mod 2. 11% dispersion. We just got through talking about how busted Colombo is with 0.1 Sigma buff and the legendary upgrade there, giving a 6% dispersion buff. The American battleships just get that 11% here as the 6th upgrade slot. Sure, you don't get reload, but 11% dispersion is a lot. It's a big difference. And then you can get reload here. But lacking that concealment, 14 kilometer detect is fine. It's normal battleship detect, I suppose. That's the one thing helping the Vermont legendary upgrade, but 12.6 is disgusting for this shell volume, this guns. That's like heavy cruiser detect, man. You probably out detect a Hindenburg. How fair is that? That's crazy. So concealment, very, very powerful. The new flag getting us over 100k here, like 107, 108,000 HP. That's kind of interesting. Notice no propulsion mod. It's baked into the ship. So steering gears or damage control system. But I'm very greedy, as you're going to see in a second. So maybe don't build it the way I do. The range mod here, slight dispersion buff. It's so minor though. I really have to emphasize that. It took some data mining to really even figure that out from people. So really not noticeable. 15% turret traverse though is quite noticeable. So maybe it would be worthwhile going for that. And yes, maybe the most greedy build you can take. Furious, no fire prevention to get even more value out of Furious. Heavy AP, longer fires, more Furious value, more damage. Yeah, a lot of risk on this one, I gotta say. Probably just running the recommended build: fire prevention, conceal, emergency repair, adrenaline rush. It's funny they recommend super heavy AP shells. You can go for it, but you will burn out to fires a little bit more quickly. Certainly going with brisk if you're running the full conceal build is amazing. It's tough to miss out on grease the gears though, especially if you have an improved commander. And then because I'm just shooting AP and I'm so greedy for dev strikes and citadels, I'm not actually running gun feeder, even though it is quite useful. Being able to swap to these HE shells, which do a lot of damage, have pretty good fire chance and pen, isn't a bad idea to have in your back pocket. But I'm so greedy for dev strikes, guys. When I'm playing something like Vermont, I gotta try. I just have to go for them. So it does influence my build a little bit. It's not a standard build, probably not as recommended, but it's fun to go for, I suppose. The armor is surprisingly good, actually. 50 millimeters, 51 millimeters. Pretty solid torp protection as well. 40%. Notice it spans the entire length of the ship. You also have to look for that. It's not only the percent reduction, but also how much of the ship does it cover? Something like Yamato, for example, is stronger, 55%. But notice how it only is right here. So even your turrets here are exposed. Your torp protection ends right here and right here. So when you're angling, the vast majority of your ship that you're exposing is actually not protected by this 55%. Small thing there, but it is nice on Vermont to have torp protection all the way up here in the bow and towards the stern here as well. It's small, but it is a benefit that Vermont does have. But probably go with the conceal build. You don't need the legendary upgrade on this thing, and maybe don't be as greedy on the commander as I am. It's more difficult to play. Higher risk, but very small little extra reward. Sometimes that's worth it, though. Hope you guys enjoyed, though. Thank you very much for watching, and have a great rest of your day.